So Blake Griffin signed with the Brooklyn Nets. Again, this was a story that literally was just dropped on us on Sunday. But one of the aspects of sports that I think is underreported and under-discussed is how important recruiting is in the sport. And what we're starting to see is that recruiting has become a much more prevalent aspect of sports, and it's been buttressed by this new wave of player empowerment and independence. That's what we're seeing, because now to recruit players, it's not just about what you say and current players texting one another, encouraging them to sign with their organization in the future, because we know that players love to be wined, dined, treated, catered to, and spoiled. They enjoy being regaled. We understand that. But now, that's not the only selling point to players. Culture, the culture that you cultivate as an organization, in my opinion, nowadays has a much more profound impact and effect on a player's decision than merely players texting one another. Because players are extremely intelligent and acutely aware of winning environments, and more importantly, what winning environments look like. They can easily discern between a franchise that has this facade of a positive culture versus one that is demonstrating and displaying it on a consistent basis, day in and day out. It's easy for them to tell. It's easy for them to discern that, to delineate between guys that are truly winning players versus teams that have established winning cultures. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a nascent display of winning or a long-established form of winning. But it's easy for these players to identify and pinpoint with their agents. Okay, where do I want to go? What destinations provide a winning culture for me? And to me, it's the culture that speaks volumes. One of my favorite adages is actions speak louder than words. Because if you're part of a winning culture, you don't need to sell the athlete. The culture is the selling point. But Blake Griffin signed with the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets did not go out and recruit Blake Griffin. Now, I understand that maybe DeAndre Jordan may have texted him. This was an opportunity for the two of them to reunite, the former Clippers. But if Blake Griffin didn't look at the Brooklyn Nets and this amalgamation of players didn't seem to fit harmoniously and they didn't seem to demonstrate a winning culture and it wasn't resulting in wins, he'd have no desire to go there. He's going there because they've got talent. Not only do they have an abundance of talent, but the pieces have apparently fit, and Steve Nash has done a great job of instilling this team camaraderie, this team element onto this team. He's conferred this blessing that he had as the ultimate unifier from his playing days in Phoenix, and he's instituted it here with the Brooklyn Nets. And now you've got James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and KD that are working seamlessly, because KD and Kyrie, those two guys were an experiment. No one knew if those two guys were going to work. Then you throw in James Harden, and now you've got a potential precarious and treacherous situation going on. Could be perilous. We don't know yet. But what we've seen so far, the evidence suggests that those three guys working perfectly together, absolutely perfectly together. So Blake Griffin was the one who sought out the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets did not recruit Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin is a six-time former All-Star, a five-time All-NBA player, and he was willing to be bought out by the Pistons. He had $56 million remaining on his contract with the Detroit Pistons. He was willing to have them buy him out so he could sign a veteran minimum to play the rest of the season with the Brooklyn Nets. That's what a winning culture can provide. We talk about recruiting all the time, but letting the actions sell itself is oftentimes more important than the verbiage that's used to actually make a pitch to these athletes. And what we learned from this Blake Griffin signing is that's exactly the case. Now, from a strategic point, this is a great fit for Brooklyn, because when you look at the contenders that were interested in signing him, you had obviously the Brooklyn Nets, you had the Lakers, you had the Clippers, the Warriors, the Heat, and the Portland Trailblazers were all interested in Blake Griffin's services. The Nets were clearly the best piece, the best fit for him. And the reason is because they needed someone with a little bit more size who could completely kind of bow tie this small ball lineup for him, because Bruce Brown, as effective as he's been at the center power forward, and he has served that role admirably, he's 6'4". He's 6'4", and he doesn't shoot the ball better than Blake Griffin. Say what you want about Blake Griffin. I know he's having a bad year. 12 points, 5 rebounds, a terrible shooting percentage, 36% from the floor, 31% from three. But the reality is, I have no doubt that in Brooklyn, New York, he's going to be rejuvenated. He's going to play more inspired, because he's going to be competing for an actual championship. And he's going to be playing with a team that has legitimate and realistic NBA title aspirations. Just look at Nicholas Batum. Nicholas Batum is the perfect example with the Charlotte Hornets. He's a guy whose career was floundering, and he was depressed. He looked like an absolute, for lack of a better term, bum in Charlotte. He was literally stealing money from the Charlotte Hornets. They were paying him $27 million to do what? To average 3.5 points per game last year in 25 games. And he shot abysmal percentage from three, abysmal percentage from the floor. And he was literally a thief in the night, taking money from the Charlotte Hornets. And I like Nick Batum. And now we're seeing who he truly is with the Clippers. He's a starter and a valuable rotational piece for the LA Clippers, who's actually provided a lot to a team that needed some stability, and a guy who could establish, once again, our favorite term, culture. And he's been playing really well. Nick Batum, he's the perfect example of you pull a guy out of a bad situation and you show him some future hope, some life, some light at the end of the tunnel. That's what's going to happen for Blake Griffin. And so I think that this will work out beautifully for the Brooklyn Nets, because this is a guy, Blake Griffin, who for his career has shot the three-point ball over 33.5% from the three-point line. Now, I'm not saying that when teams are defending Brooklyn, they're going to double Blake on the three-point line. No, obviously, out of all the marksmen that they have on the floor, you'd rather let Blake Griffin shoot that three-point shot. But if you think that you can just leave him absolutely wide open, he might make you pay. He absolutely might make you pay. And again, this is a team in the Nets that are looking to return to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2003. So I commend them for being aggressive, for going all in. But I will say this, because again, they already have established a winning culture, at least to this point. But one of the important life lessons that my dad has always shared with me when it comes to business is pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, you've taken a big chance with KD and Kyrie. Fortunately for you, they've worked. You take an even bigger risk adding James Harden. Somehow, those three have coalesced perfectly and have worked harmoniously. Now you're adding a guy in Blake Griffin who, yes, he's been humbled by the NBA, but still used to have a big ego, used to be a star. And so you just need to be wary of that. Now, again, I think that he'll just serve his role and understand what he's meant to do and who he's meant to be for this Brooklyn Nets team. And I think he'll be a productive player. But you are throwing 4 former and sometimes current All-Stars onto the same roster. So you just need to be wary of that if you are the Brooklyn Nets.